The big meeting room in space was full of strange beings from all over the galaxy. They had come together like they did every month to talk about important things, but today was different. Today they were all trying not to laugh out loud, Ambassador. Zixala was a tall creature with 6 arms and a shell like a giant bug. She was holding a piece of paper and shaking her head. Paper had writing on it that made her want to laugh so hard her shell might crack. The humans have asked again to join our military group, she said to everyone in the room. Her voice sounded like she was trying to tell a joke. Right away, all the other aliens started making noises. Some clicked their teeth, others made whistling sounds. A few beeped like broken machines, but they were all doing the same thing, laughing at the humans. Captain Jake Morrison was standing on his spaceship, looking out the big window. His ship was called the New Horizon, and it was floating near the alien meeting place. Jake was a tough man with gray hair and hands that showed he had worked hard his whole life. He was watching the beautiful alien ships fly past his window. Their ships looked like they were made of light and could move without making any sound. Jake could hear the aliens talking on his radio. Even though his computer changed their words into English, he could tell they were making fun of humans. It made his face turn red with anger. "Sir, they said no to us again," said Lieutenant Lisa Chung. She was a young woman who worked on Jake's ship. Her voice sounded sad and angry at the same time. "They are calling us a baby civilization that does not know how to fight." Jake's hands got tight around the rail he was holding. For 3 whole years, humans had been trying to get the aliens to take them seriously as fighters. Every time they asked, the aliens would say no in a nice way that was really just making fun of them. The aliens thought humans were weak and stupid. They laughed at human weapons because they used old things like bullets and bombs. Human soldiers did not have special powers like the aliens did. In a galaxy where fighting was done with mind powers and magic science, human soldiers with their simple guns looked like cavemen trying to fight with sticks. The Zentari were one of the alien races. They had changed their bodies so they could think super fast and move like lightning. The Collective was another race that could share thoughts with each other so they all knew what everyone else was thinking. The ethereals could disappear and reappear somewhere else just by thinking about it. All these aliens had spent thousands of years making themselves better at fighting. They had weapons that could blow up planets and armor that could stop anything. Next to them, humans looked like children playing with toys. Dr. Helen Parker was the smartest human when it came to studying aliens. She had spent many months learning about how the different alien races fought their wars. Each race had special powers that made them good at fighting in their own way. The crystal people called Vorthan could connect their brains to supercomputers. This let them make battle plans faster than any normal brain could think. The bug people called Krathen could talk to each other using special smells. This meant they could work together perfectly without making any sound. The problem is they do not understand us, Jake said quietly to himself. They think being weak makes us useless. But maybe being weak is actually what makes us strong. Jake had been a soldier for most of his life. He had fought in wars on Earth and on Mars. He knew that the best fighters were not always the ones with the biggest weapons or the fastest bodies. Sometimes the best fighters were the ones who could think of new ways to win when everything seemed hopeless. But the aliens did not see it that way. To them, humans were like pets trying to play with the big dogs. They were cute and tried hard, but they would never be real fighters. In the meeting room, Ambassador Zixtella was still talking about the humans. "They want to bring their little ships with their chemical rockets and their metal bullets," she said. "They think they can help us fight real wars with toys from their primitive world." The other aliens made more laughing sounds. One of them, a creature that looked like a floating cloud, said, "Should we tell them that our children's toys are more dangerous than their best weapons?" "No," said another alien that looked like a walking tree. "Let them keep trying. It is funny to watch them think they are important." Back on his ship, Jake was reading reports about the alien military. The numbers were scary. The smallest alien warship had more firepower than Earth's entire space fleet. A single alien soldier could probably defeat a whole human army without getting hurt. But Jake had learned something important during his years as a soldier. Numbers on paper did not always tell the whole story. Sometimes the side that looked weaker could win if they were smart enough and brave enough. "Lisa," Jake said to his officer, "send a message to Earth. Tell them we need to meet with the military leaders." "What should I tell them the meeting is about?" Lisa asked. Jake looked out at the alien ships flying past. They moved in perfect patterns, following rules that had been written by supercomputers. Everything they did was planned and organized and predictable. "Tell them we need to talk about fighting dirty," Jake said. Dr. Parker came to stand next to Jake at the window. She had been listening to the alien radio chatter too. "Captain, I have been thinking about something. Every alien race fights using their strongest abilities. They use their best technology and their special powers." "That makes sense," Jake said. "If you have advantages, you use them." "But what if having advantages is actually a disadvantage?" Helen asked. "What if being predictable makes you weak?" Jake turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" "The aliens win fights by being better than their enemies. Faster, stronger, smarter. But what happens when they fight someone who does not try to be better? Someone who fights in a completely different way?" Jake started to smile. It was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a fighter gets when he figures out how to beat someone bigger than him. "You mean someone who fights like a human?" Jake said. "Exactly," Helen said. "Someone who fights like they have nothing to lose." The alien ships kept flying past the window in their perfect formations. They looked beautiful and powerful and unbeatable. But Jake was starting to think that maybe, just maybe, looking unbeatable was not the same thing as actually being unbeatable in the meeting room. The aliens were finishing their monthly business. They had made jokes about humans and felt good about themselves. As they got ready to leave, none of them thought that the weak little humans might someday surprise them. They should have thought about it. A loud alarm sound cut through space like someone screaming for help. Admiral Karen Wells was on her big spaceship called the Liberty when she heard the scary message. Her face went white as she listened to what the radio was telling her. Message was coming from the Zentari Republic. These were some of the smartest and strongest aliens in the whole galaxy. They had ships that could destroy planets and soldiers that moved faster than lightning. But now they were asking for help, and they sounded very scared. "Admiral, you need to look at this right now," said Ben Carter. He was the young man who worked the radio on Karen's ship. His hands were shaking as he pushed buttons to show her what was happening. A big picture appeared in the air showing a map of the stars. There were red spots on the map that were growing bigger and bigger. "What am I looking at?" Karen asked. But she was afraid she already knew the answer. "Something is eating the galaxy," Ben said quietly. "It calls itself the Devourer Swarm. It has already eaten 3 whole star systems. Every planet, every moon, every spaceship, everything is just gone." Karen felt cold inside her chest. Had been fighting wars her whole life, but she had never heard of anything like this. The red spots on the map showed where whole worlds used to be. Now there was nothing there but empty space. "How fast is it moving?" she asked. "It is getting faster every day," Ben said. "And Admiral, 6 different alien armies tried to stop it. All of them lost. All of them are dead." Karen looked at the numbers on her screen. The alien armies that got destroyed were huge. Each one had thousands of ships and millions of soldiers. The Zentari Republic alone had weapons that could blow up stars. But something had beaten all of them. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Karen asked. Ben showed her more pictures. The Devourer Swarm looked like a giant metal cloud that moved through space, eating everything in its path. But it was not just eating things, it was learning from everything it ate. Every time someone shot at it, it figured out how to protect itself from that kind of weapon. Every time someone tried a new attack, it learned how to do the same attack but better. "The aliens are saying it adapts to everything," Ben explained. "When they used energy weapons, it learned how to absorb energy and shoot it back at them. When they used poison gas, it made the gas part of itself and used it against other enemies. When they tried to hack its computer brain, it hacked them back and took control of their ships. On the planet where the big alien meeting happened, everyone was running around scared. Ambassador Zixala was not making jokes anymore. Her 6 arms were shaking as she read report after report of destroyed fleets and dead worlds. We have tried everything, said High Coordinator Veltar. He was one of the cloud people who could disappear and reappear anywhere. But even his magic powers had not worked against the swarm. Every weapon we have, every trick we know, the swarm learns faster than we can fight. The meeting room was full of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, but they all looked scared and helpless. Some of them were crying, others were just staring at the walls like they had given up hope. Maybe we should run away, suggested one. Of the tree people, could take our ships and go to another galaxy far away. It will follow us, said a crystal person. Swarm does not stop. It just keeps eating and growing until there is nothing left. In the back of the room, Ambassador Helen Price was sitting quietly. She was the human representative, and normally nobody listened to anything she said.
Ow.
The other aliens thought humans were too stupid to have good ideas. But now, with the galaxy about to end, even the proudest aliens were willing to listen to anyone. Excuse me, Helen said, standing up slowly. I might have an idea. The whole room turned to look at her. Some of the aliens looked surprised that a human was talking. Others looked annoyed. But they were all desperate enough to listen. The swarm learns by watching how we fight, Helen said. It sees our advantages and figures out how to beat them. Every alien race in this room fights using their best abilities. You use your super speed, your mind powers, your magic science. That is why the swarm can learn to beat you. What are you suggesting? Asked Sixthilla. She sounded like she thought. Helen was wasting their time. What if we sent forces that did not have any advantages for the swarm to learn from? Helen asked. The room was quiet for a moment. Then one of the aliens started laughing. Not the good kind of laughing, but the mean kind. You want to send humans to fight the swarm? The alien said. The same humans who cannot even build a proper spaceship. The same humans who still use chemical explosives like cave people. Yes, Helen said calmly. Exactly those humans. More aliens started laughing, but Helen kept talking. The swarm expects to fight advanced civilizations with advanced weapons and advanced tactics. It has learned how to beat quantum computers and energy shields and mind control, but it has never fought anyone primitive enough to use simple explosives and metal bullets. Admiral Wells was listening to this conversation on her radio back on the Liberty.
Oh.
She was starting to understand what Helen was thinking. Sir Ben said, they are asking all military forces to help fight the swarm. All forces. Us. Karen looked around her ship. It was not as fancy as the alien ships, but it was solid and reliable. Her crew was not as fast as alien soldiers, but they were brave and smart in their own way. Her weapons were not as powerful as alien weapons, but they worked, and they were simple enough that maybe the swarm would not know how to stop them. Ben, send a message to Earth, Karen said. Tell them we are volunteering to help fight the swarm. What? Are you sure? Ben asked. Admiral, this thing has defeated armies that could crush us like bugs. Karen smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile someone makes when they decide to do something crazy because it might be the only way to win. That is exactly why we might be able to beat it, she said. Sometimes the best way to win a fight is to be too stupid to know you should lose. Back in the alien meeting room, Helen was still talking to the confused and scared leaders of the galaxy. You want to know why humans might succeed where you failed? She asked. Because we do not fight like you do. We do not have advantages for the swarm to adapt to. We just have stubbornness and the willingness to try stupid things that might work. The room was quiet again. The aliens were thinking about what she said. None of them wanted to admit that the primitive humans might be their last hope. But with their own worlds being eaten by an unstoppable enemy, they were running out of choices. Very well, said Zixdala finally. Send your human forces. Let us see what your primitiveness can accomplish. Helen nodded. She knew the aliens. Still thought humans would fail, but she also knew something the aliens did not understand. Sometimes being the underdog was the best place to be. General Roy Campbell stood in front of a room full of human soldiers and officers. He was an old man with gray hair and scars on his face from many battles. Behind him was a big screen showing pictures of the Devourer swarm eating whole planets. The room was very quiet as everyone looked at the scary images. Ladies and gentlemen, Roy said in his deep, rough voice, We are about to do something that every smart person would call crazy. We are going to attack an enemy that has beaten armies much stronger than us. We are going to use weapons they think are junk and fight in ways they think are stupid. And the people in the room were the best fighters humanity had. Colonel Amy Foster sat in the front row. She was famous for being one of the smartest battle planners in the human military. Commander Rick Stone was there too. He was a tough man who had fought in wars on Mars and knew how to win battles when everything went wrong. Captain Nina Brooks was the youngest person in the room, but she had grown up knowing that aliens thought humans were weak. Sir, with all respect, Amy said, raising her hand. What makes us think we can win when others could not? Roy smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the kind of smile someone makes when they are about to do something dangerous, 'cause we are going to do something no other species would ever think of doing. We are going to be completely unpredictable. Over the next few days, Roy and his officers made a battle plan that was unlike anything anyone had ever seen before. While other species used perfect teamwork and super advanced weapons, the humans would do the opposite. Instead of having everyone think the same thoughts like the alien hive minds, each human soldier would make their own decisions. Instead of using energy weapons that the swarm could study and copy, they would use simple bombs that worked the same way they had for hundreds of years. Dr. Helen Parker had been studying how the Devourer swarm fought. She had watched videos of all the battles where it had won. She noticed something important that the aliens had missed. The swarm learns by watching logical patterns, she explained to the officers. It expects smart enemies to make smart moves. When someone shoots at it with an energy beam, it figures out how energy beams work and learns to stop them. When someone attacks with an organized plan, it learns the plan and makes a better plan to beat it. So what do we do? Asked Rick. We do not make sense, Roy answered. The swarm is like a chess master who can think of millions of moves ahead. But we are not going to play chess. What are we going to play? Nina asked. Poker Roy said. We are going to lie, Trick, and make moves that do not make sense until it is too late for the swarm to figure out what we are doing. The human fleet that got ready to fight was strange on purpose. They had old nuclear bombs next to new railguns, had elite special forces soldiers carrying simple machine guns that fired metal bullets. Their spaceships were not built to be efficient. They were built to be confusing, with lots of different systems that could be changed quickly during battle. Amy was put in charge of designing the battle tactics. Instead of the organized formations that aliens used, she created plans that looked like chaos. Ships would fly in random directions. Soldiers would attack targets that did not seem important. Weapons would be fired in combinations that made no logical sense. The key is to make the swarm waste time trying to understand us, Amy explained to her team. While it is trying to figure out our pattern, we hit it with something completely different. Rick was given command of the special forces teams that would board enemy ships. His job was to teach his soldiers how to fight without following any rules. Forget everything you learned in military school, he told them. When you get on that swarm ship, I want you to do whatever feels right in the moment. Do not think about what makes sense. Just fight. Nina was put in charge of the fighter pilots. She taught them to fly in ways that would make flight instructors angry. Fly like you are drunk, she told them. Change direction for no reason. Speed up and slow down randomly. Make the swarm think our pilots do not know how to fly properly. Dr. Parker made sure all the weapons were as simple as possible. No smart missiles that can be hacked, she said. No energy weapons that can be analyzed. We use explosives, bullets, and fire. Things that work the same way every time and cannot be improved by thinking about them. As the human fleet prepared to leave for battle, Roy spoke to all his forces one last time. The message was sent to every ship and every soldier. The galaxy has laughed at us for being primitive and chaotic, he said. They think we are too stupid to fight real wars. Today, we are going to show them that being stupid can be the smartest thing of all. On the bridge of the Liberty, Admiral Karen Wells was looking at the battle plans Amy had made. They looked like the drawings of a crazy person. Ships moving in circles, attacks happening in the wrong order, weapons being fired at empty space. Admiral Ben said, looking worried, "Are you sure this will work?" "This does not look like any military strategy I have ever seen," Karen laughed. "That is exactly the point, Ben. The swarm has seen every military strategy in the galaxy, learned how to beat all of them. But it has never seen anything like this because no sane military commander would ever try it." The human fleet began moving toward the swarm's location. As they flew through space, the ships did not stay in neat formations like alien fleets did. Instead, they spread out in random patterns, changed speed for no reason, and sometimes flew backwards just to confuse anyone watching. Other alien fleets in the area watched the humans with confusion and worry. The neat, organized alien commanders could not understand what the humans were trying to do. It looked like the human fleet was falling apart before the battle even started. "Maybe we should help them," suggested one alien captain to his commander. "Help them do what?" the commander replied. "They do not seem to know what they are doing." But Roy knew exactly what he was doing. He was making sure that when the swarm looked at the human fleet, it would see something it had never seen before, something that did not follow any pattern or logic, something that could not be predicted or understood. "All ships," Roy announced over the radio. "Remember what we are here to do. We're here to be the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." "What is that, sir?" asked a young captain. "Humans who have nothing left to lose," Roy answered. The Devourer swarm was waiting for them ahead, a massive dark cloud of metal and hunger that had eaten civilizations far greater than humanity. But for the first time since it had started its march across the galaxy, the swarm was about to face an enemy that did not make sense. And sometimes, not making sense was the most powerful weapon of all. The first real fight between humans and the Devourer swarm happened near a star called Kepler 442. The swarm had already started eating the planets there, turning them into more parts of itself. Admiral Karen Wells stood on the bridge of the Liberty watching the enemy through her big front window. The swarm looked like a giant octopus made of metal and wire. It had long arms that reached out to grab things and pull them apart. Its body was covered in armor that changed color and shape as it learned new ways to protect itself. When Karen looked at it, she felt scared, but she also felt ready to fight. "No? Ships, start pattern Delta 7, Karen said into her radio. Across the human fleet, captains began doing something that would have made any normal military leader very angry. Instead of staying together in neat lines, the ships scattered in all directions like scared fish. Instead of shooting at the same target, they began attacking different parts of the swarm with no plan that anyone could see. Captain Jerry Mitchell was flying a ship called the Defiance. He led his ship in a spinning attack that broke every rule of space fighting. His weapons officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, fired missiles at the swarm, then immediately shot bullets, then switched to lasers. The combination made no sense at all. The swarm tried to understand what the humans were doing. Its computer brains started analyzing the attack patterns, looking for the logic that would help it fight back perfectly.
Oh.
But there was no logic too. Each human ship was doing its own thing, making decisions based on what felt right instead of what made sense. "Swarm learning speed is going down," said Lieutenant Lisa Chang from her computer station. "It is trying to study 17 different fighting styles at the same time and getting confused." Captain Nina Brooks, flying a ship called the Resilience, saw that the swarm was confused and decided to try the most dangerous part of the human plan. She flew her ship straight into the middle of the swarm, past all its defenses, and fired a bunch of old nuclear bombs right into its brain. The nuclear bombs were simple weapons that had not changed much in hundreds of years. They worked by splitting atoms and making big explosions. The swarm had learned how to stop fancy energy weapons and matter destroyers, but it had no idea how to deal with weapons that worked by just blowing things up really hard. The nuclear explosions tore holes in the swarm's main thinking centers. But more importantly, they created electrical storms that messed up the swarm's ability to control all its different parts at the same time. "Now," Karen shouted to all her ships, "Do the hammer attack." What happened next was the craziest 15 minutes anyone had ever seen in a space battle. Every human ship fired every weapon they had in a pattern that made no sense. Old-fashioned explosives mixed with new laser cannons. Simple bullets fired at the same time as gravity bombs. Computer viruses launched alongside actual signal flares that were meant to be seen. It's not to hurt anything. The swarm's smart systems were overwhelmed by how many different and illogical things were happening. It tried to adapt to the explosives, but then got hit by lasers. It tried to stop the lasers, but then got hurt by bullets. It tried to understand the computer attacks, but then got confused by the pretty lights from the signal flares. Without its main brain working properly, different parts of the swarm started making their own decisions. But the swarm had been designed to work as one big mind. When parts of it started thinking independently, they got confused and began attacking each other. Thinking that other swarm pieces were actually enemies, Captain Jerry kept flying his ship in crazy patterns, shooting at random targets. "This is insane," said Sarah as she fired another mixed-up combination of weapons. "That is the point," Jerry replied, laughing as he spun his ship upside down for no reason except to be unpredictable. Captain Nina was deep inside the swarm now, her ship dodging between its metal arms, was shooting at anything that looked important, not because she had a plan, but because her instincts told her those targets felt right. "Nina, get out of there," Karen shouted over the radio. "Not yet," Nina replied. "I think I found something." She had spotted what looked like a backup brain hidden inside the swarm's body. Without asking permission or making a plan, she fired all her remaining nuclear bombs at it. The explosion was so big it lit up space like a second sun. The swarm began falling apart. Its arms stopped moving in coordination. Its armor stopped changing to protect against attacks. Different sections started floating away from each other like a broken toy. On the alien ships watching from far away, commanders could not believe what they were seeing. The primitive humans had done something that the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy could not do. They had beaten the Devourer's swarm. "How did they do that?" asked one alien captain. "I have no idea," replied his commander. "Nothing they did should have worked, but it had worked." Within 1 hour, the swarm presence in the Kepler 442 system was completely destroyed. All that was left were floating pieces of metal and broken computer parts. On the Liberty, Karen's crew was cheering and hugging each other. Ben was crying with happiness. Lisa was laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "Admiral," said Jerry over the radio, "did we actually just win?" Karen looked out at the debris field where the swarm used to be. "Yes, Jerry, we won." "And do you?" "No, why?" "Why? Because we fought like humans," Karen said. "We did not try to be smarter or faster or stronger. We just did what felt right and hoped it would work." Dr. Helen Parker came onto the bridge with a big smile on her face. "Admiral, I have been studying the battle recordings. The swarm spent so much energy trying to understand our tactics that it forgot to actually fight us effectively." "So our stupidity was actually smart?" asked Ben. "The smartest thing we could?" "Have done," Helen replied. "We gave the swarm a puzzle it could not solve because there was no solution. We were random on purpose." News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. For the first time since the swarm had appeared, someone had not just survived an attack, but had completely destroyed a major swarm force in the alien council chambers. Ambassador Zixila was reading the battle reports with her mouth hanging open. The numbers did not make sense. The humans should have been destroyed in minutes, but instead they had won a perfect victory. "How is this possible?" she asked the ambassador. Helen Price stood up with a small smile on her face. "It is possible because you all forgot something important about war." "What is that?" "Sometimes the best strategy is to have no strategy at all." The aliens in the room were quiet. They were beginning to understand that maybe, just maybe, they had been wrong about the humans. Maybe being primitive and unpredictable was not a weakness. Maybe it was the most powerful weapon in the galaxy, and the humans were just getting started. The news about what happened at Kepler 442 traveled through the galaxy like wildfire. For the first time since the Devourer swarm had started eating worlds, someone had not just fought it off, but had completely destroyed it. The reports seemed Impossible to believe. Primitive humans had done what the most advanced civilizations could not do, Jet Ambassador. Helen Price stood in front of the emergency council meeting. The big room was packed with representatives from every species in the galaxy. These were the same aliens who had laughed at humans just weeks before. They were hanging on every word she said. The swarm works by being predictable, Helen began, her voice calm and clear. It learns, adapts, and wins by studying patterns and finding the best responses. Every advanced civilization fights in patterns because your advantages are systematic. They can be learned and beaten. High Coordinator Veltar, the cloud person who could disappear and reappear anywhere, leaned forward with interest. And humans fight without patterns? We fight with something better than patterns, Helen replied. We fight with chaos guided by gut feelings, experience, and individual judgment. The swarm can study our weapons, but it cannot predict what a single human mind will decide to do when everything goes wrong. Over the next few weeks, something amazing happened. Human military advisors were sent to alien fleets all across the galaxy. These were the same humans who had been considered too stupid to fight real wars. Now, alien commanders were begging to learn from them. General Roy Campbell found himself in a position he had never expected. He was teaching the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy how to be primitive. In war colleges on dozens of worlds, he explained the human ideas of thinking for yourself, making things up as you go, and controlled chaos. Your species have evolved beyond needing individual judgment in warfare, he told a mixed class of alien officers. But individual judgment is exactly what the swarm cannot predict or adapt to. The results were incredible. Zentari squadrons learned to break their mind links at important moments, letting individual pilots make crazy decisions. The bug people called Krathen began adding random elements to their smell language, creating confusion that the swarm could not understand. Colonel Amy Foster was sent to work with the crystal people called Vorthen. They were used to having their supercomputers make all their battle decisions. Amy taught them something new. Your computers are great, she told them. But sometimes you need to ignore what the computer says and do what feels right. But that is illogical, protested one crystal officer. Exactly, Amy said with a smile. That is what makes it work. Captain Nina Brooks worked with the tree people, teaching their ships to fly in patterns that looked like mistakes. Captain? Jerry Mitchell showed the cloud people how to phase shift randomly instead of following planned routes. Every human teacher was showing aliens how to be unpredictable. The final battle against the Devourer swarm happened near the center of the STH galaxy, where the enemy had built a massive processing facility. It was trying to eat the energy from the central black hole to make itself even stronger. The combined fleets of 50 different species gathered to stop it. Admiral Karen Wells commanded the assault from the Liberty. But her orders were simple. All ships, all commanders, fight however you think is best. Trust your feelings. Make the enemy guess what you will do next. The battle lasted for 3 days and was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Ships from across the galaxy fought side by side, but they were not fighting like their species normally did. The Crystal People kept their computer advantages, but used them to generate random numbers for making unpredictable choices. The Cloud People combined their reality-bending powers with moment-to-moment improvisation. The Tree People, normally moved very slowly and carefully, began making split-second decisions that surprised everyone. The Bug People broke there. Perfect coordination on purpose, letting individual soldiers make their own choices. When the swarm's central facility finally collapsed, it was not destroyed by any single weapon or plan. It was overwhelmed by the impossible task of adapting to 50 different species all fighting like humans. The enemy's computer brain simply could not handle that much randomness and logic breaking at the same time. After the battle, as the galaxy began to rebuild, the human representatives found themselves in a very different position. Ambassador Helen Price no longer had to beg for military alliance status. Instead, other species were asking if they could form alliances with humans. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral for his role in developing human fighting methods, stood once again at the observation deck of a human ship. But this time, when alien ships flew past, their commanders sent respectful messages instead of ignoring the humans. Sir Lieutenant Lisa Chang reported, her voice full of pride. The Zentari Republic wants to build a joint training facility with us. They want to learn more about our chaos methods. Jake smiled as he watched a beautiful alien battleship perform what looked like a clumsy evasion maneuver. A few months ago, such sloppy flying would have been considered a navigation error. Now it was recognized as brilliant tactics. Sir Lisa continued, "We are also getting requests from the Krathen Hive, the Ethereal Dominion, and the Crystal Confederacy. They all want human advisors to teach their forces. And what are they offering in return?" Jake asked. "Technology, trade agreements, and full membership in the Galactic Defense Alliance," Lisa said. "With voting rights and everything?" Jake laughed. It was a good laugh, full of satisfaction and amazement. A few months ago, they thought we were too primitive to deserve respect. Now they think we are too valuable to ignore. Dr. Helen Parker joined Jake at the window. She was carrying a tablet full of scientific data from their alien allies. Admiral, I have been thinking about what we accomplished." "What do you mean we did not just win a war?" Helen said. "We changed how the entire galaxy thinks about fighting. We showed them that being perfect is not always better than being adaptable." Jake nodded. "We showed them that sometimes the best advantage is not having any advantages at all." On dozens of worlds across the galaxy, alien military academies were adding new courses to their programs. Classes with names like Creative Chaos Theory and Individual Initiative in Combat. Young alien soldiers were learning to think for themselves instead of just following orders or computer calculations. The humans had been the laughingstock of the galaxy, mocked for their simple weapons and chaotic nature. But when the galaxy faced its greatest threat, those same qualities had proven to be exactly what was needed. Admiral Morrison looked out at the stars, where human and alien ships now flew together in mixed formations. The formations were deliberately imperfect, with gaps and irregularities that would have horrified old-style military commanders, but they were also unpredictable, adaptable, and ready for anything. "The laughter has stopped," Jake said quietly. "Yes," Helen agreed, "but something better has taken its place." "What is that?" "Understanding," she said. "They finally understand that in a universe full of perfect warriors, the imperfect ones might be the most dangerous of all." The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes strength comes not from what you can do, but from what others cannot predict you will do. And nobody was more unpredictable than humans, who had nothing left to lose and everything to prove.